Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Sadaf Khan and I'm an English teacher at AIA. I've set some reflective practice goals for myself for 2025, and it would be a great honor if you could be part of my learning. The diversity and richness of your experience would be an honor to learn from. And so I'm sharing the framework of this reflective practice with you, and let's have a look on what we can do this year. So, why reflective practice? John Dewey said, we learn nothing from experience, but we learn from reflecting on our experience. An effective teacher is a reflective teacher, a reflective teacher is an effective teacher. And so, this is the reason behind this goal that I have set for myself. Um, how am I going to reflect on my practice? I'm going to be using Dr. Breakspeare's teaching sprints as my reflective cycle. He offers a three-step um, teaching sprint process. Prepare, the first step, is about coming together as a community and deciding on one strategy that we feel we need to use in our teaching. The sprint part of that of this process is that we take 2 weeks of every term, 2 to 4 weeks. We apply that strategy that we've decided, and then we come together and review how successful it was, what are the drawbacks, what are the challenges, what are the limitations, and what's the best way forward. And so, keeping this teaching sprint in mind, I tried to implement it in my teaching. I kept the goal for my reflective practice how to reduce the cognitive load of students during lessons. This is an article by Ian Keller that is on Edutopia, and I have used it to inform my reflective practice. Cognitive load theory is full of lots of ideas about how students learn and how best we can support that learning. And so, in this context, after reading this article, I came up with 10 key points of what helps reduce the cognitive load of students. Now, because the teaching sprint demands that I come together as a community, I don't know if you remember, but I actually reached out to all of you with a Google form in last week. And how do I reduce the cognitive load of students in my classroom? I'm very happy to the 13 teachers who responded to this Google form. And if you click on it, you will be able to access it. In this Google form, while there were lots of positives, the one thing that I found was common that all of the 13 teachers and myself had very little idea of was the use of the single point rubric in the coming up with the plan stage and for check-ins during a project as well as at the end. And so I decided to, launch my teaching sprint with the single point rubric. So how did I do this? So if you click on this again, you can again access the Cult of Pedagogy, Jennifer. Um, I've forgotten the name of the lady, Jennifer Alvarez. Um, she has given us this lovely breakfast in bed single point rubric. Now, if you read it, I introduced this tool actually to my year 8 classroom. Um, I introduced to them the fact that the headings of criteria like food, presentation, and comfort are given in the center and the standards for each criteria for this performance are given under it. So, for example, breakfast for bed, all food must be at the correct temperature, adequately seasoned and cooked to the eater's preference, etc. Food is served in a clean tray with napkin and silverware, and some decorative additions may be present. And then recipient is woken gently, assisted in seat adjustment, and given reasonable time and space to eat. Now, with giving the students this single point rubric, I asked them to, fill up what would be the areas of improvement and what would be evidence of exceeding standards. And students gave me good ideas of how, perhaps there would be flowers or a candle on the very clean tray with an unused napkin, etc. And they also said that perhaps the napkin was not so clean and perhaps the food was not adequately seasoned in areas for improvement. The students were able to tell me what would be the standards for the three criteria in this single point rubric for breakfast in bed. Now, what I did after introducing the tool was I told the students that if they looked carefully, there were three standards to each criteria. Okay? Now, after this, for my sprint, I selected the paragraph structure of ICTEL that we use in the English classroom. This is a scaffold that teachers use, and this scaffold is taught from grade 7 to grade 12. I is for idea. It says the child is written elaborate, but it could be elaborate, explain, or example, depending on which ICTEL are you using. Then quote, technique, explain, and link. So this is the basic form of a structure that we use in English. And I thought, okay, if we make a single point rubric and each of the criteria of how to create an idea, how to elaborate, how to quote, what would be the standards of performance for writing a sentence with the idea? So if you look a little closely, the student here says the topic sentence for the paragraph. That's her definition for idea. Okay, elaborate on the topic sentence, include who, what, when, where, and why and how. Quote, include a quote or some sort of evidence. Technique, what technique form is the quote, and then explain the significance of the quote to the topic and then link to the topic. Now, even though I've told the students that you have to have three standards, and I broke down the whole concept of the idea, it was very informative to me to just get the students to do a single point rubric of ICTEL. It just showed me what is their basic understanding of it, and what do they think they need to include in idea. Once I'd done this, I asked my students to apply it. I gave them a question. This is a question that they are studying in a grade 8 with the 12th Night manga novel that they are doing. So, how does Viola's disguise complicate her relationship with Olivia and Duke Orsino? This is in our unit of work. This question that we were supposed to write an ICTEL paragraph on, and this is what the student wrote after using the single point cried rubric that she has made out of ICTEL. It's the same student. Okay, and for English teachers, you can pause the video here and read the paragraph. It is a paragraph which includes all aspects of ICTEL, and however, if you look at the structure, it fits the middle table of the criteria and standards of performance. It, I leave it to you whether you think there are areas of improvement or whether you think it is exceeding expectations. That is for you to decide. Once the students had written the paragraph or they had written an idea, sorry for the messy writing, but then I broke down each and every part of ICTEL. The idea thing is not here, but this is the example or the elaboration bit. When I asked them what would they write as an explanation, this is what one of the students prompted. Olivia thinks Viola is a boy and Duke Orsino also thinks the same. And then, in exceeding evidence of exceeding expectations, we started to explore, how can we bring in thematic analysis in? So we've already talked about how the love relationship between Olivia Duke Orsino and Viola is complicated, and so taking it forward in the love triangle, Viola, Olivia, and Duke Orsino. in the love triangle of these three people, the love that Olivia feels for Viola, who's dressed up as Cesario, is heartfelt, playful, and touching. Students came up with these three words actually. However, this is complicated by Viola's disguise of Cesario, a boy. When students look at an idea from a thematic viewpoint, then the elaboration automatically becomes thematic as well. And so the more you actually assist students in explaining how to break down the idea or how to incorporate theme and character in their topic sentences and idea sentence, the better they are able to write about the examples, and then the more easily they can find quotes to support that. Okay, so this is a model I shared with them. Um, we got to do the idea sentence and I modeled exceeding expectations. We got to do the example sentence and I modeled exceeding expectations. However, what is my key learning from this one class sprint that I did? What was the effectiveness of the sprint? Look, I think single point rubric is a lovely idea. Actually, Lubna told me to take this idea and let the students make the single point rubric. She says if you're going to give it to them, you're never going to understand what is it that they are um, processing on their own. And so I'm really grateful to her to have suggested that. And I also noticed once that I was explaining this to my students that I need to sort it out on my own as well with the help of my English department, which I'm really excited to look at, to explore this with them. And I'm also excited about sharing it with all of you if you can, help me in seeing how are the different ways in which we can apply the single point rubric in our classrooms. Those of you who've already done it may have lots of ideas that would be worth sharing, but this is something that I realized needs to be implemented and discussed and explored. Why am I mentioning and sharing this with you right now is because the assessments are coming up in week 10. This is the time when I hand in assessment task with assessment rubrics to the students. And if we can use this opportunity in the next 2 weeks to explore a single point rubric and help the students break down what the assessment tasks requires of them, I think it would be a very useful exercise in getting them to feel, you know, what would they need to do when to exceed expectations, what are they doing in terms of areas of improvement. So the effectiveness of the sprint, the potential of it, I'm aware of. Obviously, when one or double lesson on a Friday afternoon, I would not say that this was a very effective um, sprint. I do realize, though, having said that, that the value of it, the value of ICTEL, the value of understanding what students understand of it was extremely valuable for me. Implications for future practice. So that's what I would like us to do now. I would love us for all of us to, whoever is interested, would take the initiative and apply the single point rubric in the coming few weeks with their classrooms. If we are able to do that, we can then come together as a community of teachers and review our process, or maybe during the process, explore what are the roadblocks, what are the strengths, what is working, what is not working. I am quite happy to use the NESA framework of the 4 lenses of reflective practice, in which you begin with your autobiographical lens, which I've just done, and then you move on to student feedback, and then you get your colleagues to observe you in your classrooms, or you observe each other. And then finally, we go back to theory and literature and research and refine our teaching practice. And so, if every term we are able to pick up one area that we would like to sprint with, explore it, inform it with research and evidence, and then review it together, once a term for 2 to 4 weeks, I think it would be a very productive year for all of us. The reflective practice goal that I've set for myself is how to reduce the cognitive load of students during lessons. And I'm sure that out of all the strategies that were given in that article, there is enough for us to do, focus on in this coming year. And so, as I embark on my journey of reflective practice, I will be very happy to have anyone on board to help me in this exciting learning experience. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to um, talking more about this with you at another time. Before I go, here is a website, it's a web link that I have created where I'm going to reflect, and I would love for all of you to join me here. I can share you the link with this video, and I hope that we can explore this opportunity and reflect together. Inshallah. Okay, take care, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.